Hello everybody, how are you? I hope you are fine. Everyone needs to make questions in English language because speaking or making conversation with anyone, you need to make English questions. So everyone asks, what is the correct order when you make English questions? What is number 1? What is number 2, 3, 4, 5? In another way, what is the correct or the right structure of making questions in English language? Before we start this point, to make questions in English language, there are two ways. Direct questions, which means that you can ask your questions with yes, no questions. Do you like? Are you? Have you got? Did you go? So all these questions, the answer is either yes or no. If you ask someone, do you like sport? He says, yes, I do. Does she play football? Yes, she does. So yes or no. But today's lesson is completely different. The lesson of today, we'd like to study how to make questions with what, where, when, why, what time. These things are very important for many people when they make English questions when they want to ask the others. As you know, what is conversation? What is speaking? Speaking is question and answer. So if you can't make correct English questions perfectly, that will lead you to a point which is difficult for anyone to understand you. So let's have a look. What is the correct order in making English questions with what, where, when? Number 1 is what, or where, or when, or why, or what time, or... Number 2 is the most important point. When you make questions, you have to understand the tenses in English language. For example, is or are relates to what? Present continuous. And you have to add to the verb ing. If you put do or does, so you are asking about present simple, which means that every day. And if you use did, you are talking about the past simple. Will, about the future. Can, about the ability. Have, about the possessive or the present perfect. So if you face difficulties to understand these points well, that means that you are in a need to understand present simple, present continuous, past, future, and on. Point number 3, after what is or what do or what did, you have to put number 3, the subject. As you know, subject you, he, she, it, you, John, Tom, Ali. And number 4 is the verb, and number 5 is the object. So now you can make any English questions following these 5 steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Someone asks me, is it necessary, Mr. Murad, to make 5 steps? It's not necessary. The answer is no. You can make 3 steps. For example, where are you? This is the smallest question in English language. Where are you? Where is he? Where is she? So you can make it 1, 2, 3. Or you can make it 1, 2, 3, 4. For example, where do you work? Where do you live? Where do you play? Or you can make it 5. Where do you play football? Object is the football. When or what time do you eat your lunch? And it's like that. The most important point, try not to confuse between the correct order. What I mean, most of the students ignore or don't use point number 2 because they don't understand the tenses in English language. So when I listen to some people, when I hear, they say, where you? They don't use to. Where you work? Where you play? Where she? So if you don't use number 2, what is the problem? Someone asks, what is the problem if we don't use number 2? If I don't say, where do you? And I say, where you? Where is the problem? Here is the question. Where you? I don't put is, are, do. What's the problem? Do you have the answer? The answer is the problem here. If you don't put number 2, which is the tenses of English language, we don't know the tense. Are you talking about the present continuous or about present simple, which happens every day? Or you're talking about the past or the future? So if you put here do, I can understand you are talking about where do you go every day, or usually, or always, as a habit. If you put here did, so I can understand that you are talking about the past. You are asking about the past, yesterday, last week, last month. And if you put here will, so you are talking about the future. Where will you go? Tomorrow or next week or next month. So I want you just to focus about the correct order. When you make English questions with what, where, when, why, what time, and so let's have some examples to understand these things much better. Number 1 here, where do you work? So where is number 1, and do is the present simple, and you is number 3, and work is number 4. So as I told you, it's not necessary to make it 5. It's enough you make it 3 or 4 or 5. But don't start with number 3 or number 4. Or this is the correct order in English language to make English questions with what, where, when, why. Example number 2. When did you go to school? When did you go to London? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here we can have 5 points. When did you go there? And London or Paris or New York is number 5. Why will she buy a car? Why? Why is number 1. And will is about the future, the tense, will. And she is the subject, and buy is the verb, and a car is the object. The last question here is, what does she want? What does she eat? What does she read? So you need to practice making English questions just the same order I told you. This is the correct structure of making questions in English language. I hope you got the benefit of this lesson today and you understood the lesson perfectly. Thank you very much for your listening. That was Mr. Murad talking to you. Good luck and see you soon. Goodbye.